I made dinner for our anniversary. My wife, she looked at me and said, "Wow, you're really putting in effort for someone who barely matters." That was 3 months ago. Today, she wanted to know why I wasn't home last night. I'm 28 and my wife Abby's 29. We've been married for roughly 5 years. For the most part, everything's been, all right. Honestly, that's the best way to put it. Just fine. I'm not sure if that's a good sign or a bad one, but when we got married, I felt like we'd be coasting. We seemed to always be on the same page, or so I believed. But something shifted a few months ago. It wasn't a huge deal right away, but looking back, there were tiny little issues cropping up everywhere. I initially told myself I was overthinking it. Then our anniversary happened. And I swear I don't know if that day shattered something, or if it was just the point where everything finally went wrong. It started weeks before. I'd been plotting for our anniversary, trying to make it special. I know it's corny to go all out for it, but I figured it would be a nice thing to do. I took off work for the day. I went to the store and bought everything I needed to cook a fancy meal. Abby had always said she liked the thought of a home-cooked dinner, so I thought it was my moment to really show her that I valued her, that I still cared, even though life had gotten hectic. The plan was simple. I planned to cook all of her favorite meals, the works. I was gonna arrange the dining room all fancy, like with candles and flowers, to make it a chill night where she could just unwind. I really put my heart into getting everything just right, even the music. I'd made this playlist of mellow tunes, hoping it would set the mood. I wanted it to be this super special night, just us. Finally, the night arrived. Everything was ready to go. The table was all set up, and I was standing there by the door, waiting for her to get home. When she came in, I was totally psyched, but something about the way she looked, it just threw me off right away. She didn't even crack a smile. She looked around the room, and then she looked at me. "Wow, you're trying way too hard for someone who barely matters," she said, her voice flat, but with this edge I just couldn't shake. I just stood there, frozen solid. Honestly, I didn't even know what to say. I couldn't tell if she was just kidding around, but the way she said it felt really serious. It wasn't the playful jab I was used to. It felt different. I tried to play it cool. "I just thought we could have a nice night, for our anniversary." She just shrugged it off and walked right past me into the living room, tossing her bag on the couch without saying anything. My stomach just dropped. Was she mad at me? Was this some weird way of showing she was bummed? I followed her into the living room, trying to save the night. "Hey, Abby, is everything okay? You don't seem—" "I'm fine," she cut me off, her voice suddenly really sharp. "Seriously, I don't get why you made such a big deal out of it. We're grown-ups, This isn't some cheesy romance novel. It's just a simple dinner." That really hurt, like a punch to the gut. Even though she didn't yell, I was confused. What had shifted? Was it really such a big deal to her, this little effort? I'd poured so much of myself into it, and it felt like it meant absolutely nothing to her. And it wasn't just the anniversary dinner. It was everything. Dinner was super awkward, uncomfortably quiet. The candles were flickering between us, but the cozy vibe was completely gone. Abby didn't even touch her food right away. She just played with it with her fork, and I knew she wasn't even tasting it. It didn't matter what I cooked. It didn't matter how hard I tried. She just wasn't interested. I tried to strike up a conversation, anything to break the tension. "Hey, I caught that movie you wanted to see last weekend. We should make time to watch it together soon." She didn't even glance up from her plate. "Yeah, sure." It felt like we were complete strangers, just awkwardly sharing a meal, and it was probably the most uncomfortable evening I'd ever spent with her. I couldn't tell if she was angry or just didn't care. When the night ended, there was no thanks, no "I love you." She just went straight to bed, and I was left sitting there, wondering what the hell had gone wrong. The next few days were no better. Abby was withdrawn, and when we did talk, it was only about the most meaningless stuff. I started to get really frustrated. What had happened? Was I totally missing something? Was I doing something wrong? I was so lost, I just had to make things right, I tried everything to get through to her. I suggested coffee, just some time together, alone. But she kept blowing me off every single time I tried to talk. It felt like she was building a wall between us. I couldn't shake this feeling that she was deliberately avoiding me. Even though I hadn't done a thing, I felt like she couldn't see me. A few weeks after our anniversary, things got really icy. Abby and I barely spoke a word. We weren't fighting, not exactly, but this awful silence hung over the house. I'd come home, and there she'd be, glued to her phone on the couch. She barely even looked at me. I'd sit down next to her, try to chat, but it was like talking to a brick wall. Then, about 2 months back, I got home later than usual. It was around 9:30. I'd been at work late, going over a project with a coworker. I wasn't expecting anything from Abby. Honestly, it had been ages since I felt like she wanted anything from me. But when I walked in, she was in the living room, phone in her hand, and she looked up. Her face was totally blank, like she was waiting for something to happen. Where have you been? She snapped. I just froze. At work, I said. I told you I was staying late. She raised one eyebrow. It's almost 10, she said, and I didn't get a text. You didn't even call. Before I could even get a word out, she cut me off. I don't want to hear it. She didn't care, plain and simple. It was like a light switch flipped inside me. My chest clenched and all the anger I'd been swallowing for weeks just boiled over. I do care, Abby, but it feels like you're not even trying anymore. You never talk to me, you never look at me, and now I'm the bad guy. What's going on? She just rolled her eyes and got up, heading for the bedroom. Whatever, just drop it. I'm tired. I stood there for a minute just watching her go, and I knew deep down that this was way more than just a bad mood. Something was seriously wrong. Then about 3 months later, around 2 a.m., I got a text from Abby that said, "Why didn't you come home last night?" I was completely floored. What did she mean? I hadn't even thought to check in with her. I was at my friend's place, crashing after we talked late. But she knew that, so why the question? I stared at the message, unsure of how to answer. It felt like everything had turned into this weird game and I didn't know the rules. What was I supposed to say? Was I supposed to apologize? Did she even feel bad? I just didn't know what to feel. I stood there, phone in my hand, the weight of her text crushing me. Why didn't you come home last night? It felt like a trap. The kind you don't see coming, but you're still caught in. And I was already at the end of my rope. This felt like the final nail in the coffin. Instead of shooting back a text right away, I did my usual thing. I totally overthought it. I just stared at my phone, reading and rereading her message, trying to figure out what she was getting at. She already knew where I was. I told her days ago I was heading to Marcus Place after work to finish up a project. She knew, so why was she asking now, 3 hours later, like I was some kid who couldn't be trusted? Something felt really wrong. I set my phone down, rubbed my face, and this unbelievable feeling just kept growing. I'd been so patient with her for months. I'd tried everything to fix whatever was broken, and here she was, completely changing the story and making me look bad. I knew she could be manipulative, but this was different. It was like she'd completely changed. It wasn't just that she was ignoring me or being distant anymore. She was actually twisting things, making herself out to be the victim while I was left to clean up the mess of a relationship that had been falling apart for ages. I didn't want to get dragged into her drama. I was so tired of second-guessing every little thing she did or said. But honestly, I felt trapped. I had to reply. My fingers were shaking as I typed. Abby, you knew where I was. We talked about this. I was at Marcus Place working. I'm just not sure what this whole thing was about. I waited for a bit. Nothing. So I went to bed, but it wasn't easy to fall asleep. I just kept staring at the ceiling, and the quiet felt like it was crushing me. Was she actually trying to ditch me? Or was this some kind of weird test to see if I'd fight for her, even though she'd been so distant lately? Whatever it was, I was over it. I didn't text her again. I didn't try to pursue her. I knew that if I did, she'd just pull away even more, pulling out that same old line she always used. You don't get me. You never have. The next morning, I was in the kitchen making breakfast when she walked in. At first, I didn't say anything. I didn't know what to say anymore, and I didn't want to start something if she wasn't ready to talk. She just stood there in the doorway, watching me like she was waiting for me to say something. When I didn't, she cleared her throat. I didn't hear from you last night. What's that about? I looked at her for a second, then went back to scrambling the eggs. It was the kind of cold shoulder I was starting to expect. I wasn't trying to make things worse, but I couldn't act like everything was fine. You know where I was, Abby. I told you. I don't know why you're making a big deal out of this. She rolled her eyes and crossed her arms. It's just weird, okay? I hate being left in the dark, especially when you're out all night, and it's not like you've been around much lately. Her words really hit me hard, harder than I wanted to let on. I slowly put the spatula down and turned to look at her. What are you trying to say? I asked. She didn't even flinch, didn't seem to notice I was trying to stand my ground. It means we don't communicate anymore, Tom, she said. You come home, we just sit here in silence, and you never even ask me how I'm doing. You've completely checked out of this marriage, and I'm the only one trying to make it work. It felt like she'd punched me in the stomach. My head was spinning, trying to wrap my mind around her words. Was I really the one who'd checked out? Was she so blind that she couldn't see what I was going through? Suddenly, I was overwhelmed by memories of the past few months, the constant feeling of being ignored, treated like I was invisible. I took a deep breath, fighting back the anger bubbling up inside. Abby, don't act like this is all my fault, I said. You've barely spoken to me for weeks. You shut me out completely. The only time you talk to me is to make some sarcastic remark or criticize me. Her eyes narrowed, but there was no remorse, no sign that she understood her part in this mess. I'm not criticizing you, she said. I'm just telling you the truth. You don't care anymore. That's when I knew it was over. I couldn't keep fighting for a relationship that wasn't even there anymore. But I couldn't just walk away either. I had to show her that her games weren't going to work this time. Over the next few days, things felt different. I didn't reach out. It wasn't that I was mad or anything, but I finally saw that I was always the one worn out after trying to smooth things over. Abby always had a way of making it seem like I wasn't trying hard enough, so I stopped texting her back right away. I'd wait a bit before replying, and when I got home, I skipped the small talk. If she wasn't gonna own up to what was going on between us, why should I keep pretending everything was okay? I started making plans without her. I spent more time at work, grabbed drinks with Marcus and the guys. I wasn't exactly having a blast, but I was keeping busy enough that I wasn't always thinking about her. It felt weirdly good, not having to beg for her attention, not being at the whim of her moods. The sudden freezing me out, then demanding I pay attention like she was the only person who mattered. If she wasn't going to put in any work, then neither was I. Days went by like this. She barely talked to me unless she had to. And when she did, it was the same old stuff. Finding fault with little things, saying how wiped out she was, how tough she had it. She still expected me to fix things, like it was my job to make it all better. But I didn't. I was so done carrying this relationship all by myself. I could tell she was noticing the change. The silence between us just got thicker. The house, which used to echo with her voice all the time, was just quiet now. And honestly, I was okay with that. It felt kind of like a relief, even though I wasn't sure what I was taking a break from. I started thinking, was this it? Was this all we had left? Maybe I'd already given her everything I had, and now she was just waiting for me to take the first step, like always. But I wasn't going to play that game. I wouldn't be the one to fix things, not this time. Then came that night. Everything felt like it was coming to a head. It was late, and I was driving back from Marcus' place, still carrying the weight of everything that had been going on. I didn't figure she'd still be up, but when I opened the door, there she was in the living room, just staring at the wall. She didn't even glance at me when I walked in. I just stood there for a second, wondering if I should say something or just go to bed. She had this look on her face, I knew it well. That look that said she was waiting for me to come to her to smooth everything over. But I wasn't falling for that again. Instead, I threw my jacket on a chair, went into the kitchen to get a drink, and then just stood there, letting the silence hang heavy between us. After a couple of minutes, she finally spoke, her voice soft but kind of sharp too. "So this is what it's come to?" I didn't answer right away. I didn't need to explain myself anymore. It just wasn't worth the effort. She stood up, her eyes narrowing. "I can't believe you're doing this, Tom. I thought you actually cared, but now it feels like I'm invisible to you." I didn't even bother to react, honestly. "Were you just gonna keep playing it cool like nothing was wrong?" She started getting all worked up, her voice getting louder. I finally turned and looked her in the eye. "Nah, Abby, I'm not pretending anymore. I'm just done with the charade. It's all my fault things are messed up, I guess." There was something in her eyes, but I couldn't figure it out. Guilt? Or just that she couldn't control things anymore? "This is crazy. You're just gonna give up on us." "I'm not giving up. I'm just plain tired of carrying everything alone while you just complain. You don't want to fix anything. You just want to keep me confused so you have some power over me." She stopped talking, took a deep breath like she'd been punched in the gut. "You don't get it, do you?" she said, sounding even angrier than before. "I've been shouldering this whole thing for months. You think I've been doing nothing?" "Listened," I snapped back. I was so mad at that point. "What do you mean? You've been ignoring me this whole time. You don't talk to me. You just throw accusations at me when it's convenient. I can't handle this anymore." The air got heavy. You could cut the tension with a knife. I could see her thinking, trying to make sense of everything I'd said. And for the first time in forever, I didn't feel like I was the one in the wrong, and I could tell she was starting to see that too. Without another word, I snatched my phone and keys and bolted out of there. I didn't even bother to say where I was heading. Honestly, I didn't even care. I just needed to breathe. When I got back to my place, I tossed my bag onto the couch and crashed down, my head spinning. That's when I heard it. A gentle tap at the door. It was so unlike her to come after me, especially not lately. But now, there she was, trying to chip away at my defenses. That's when it clicked. This wasn't just about her feeling left out. It wasn't just about her being annoyed. It was about control. This was about me finally drawing a line and her realizing she wasn't calling the shots anymore. And I think that freaked her out. I didn't answer. I just let the knock fade into the silence. Then my phone lit up. A text from Abby. "Where are you? What's going on with us?" I just stared at the screen, totally lost. I was done being Plan B, but would she see it that way? Had we reached the point of no return? Or was this the start of something different, something where I didn't have to beg for her attention anymore? Before I could respond, there was another knock, louder this time, and I realized I had one more decision to make. Should I go back and smooth things over, or should I just keep walking away, let this whole mess sort itself out? My phone buzzed again. It was her. I stood there glued to the text on my phone, and this overwhelming wave of tiredness washed over me. I had no clue what I was supposed to do anymore. Abby had been pretty clear over the last few months that she just couldn't see the damage she'd caused. She deconvinced herself I was the issue, that I was the one who'd checked out, the one who wasn't even trying. But the fact was, I'd been the one busting my butt for ages, and it was finally getting to me. The banging on the door kept going, getting louder and almost frantic. I knew what she was up to. She was trying to guilt me into going back, into just giving in to the pressure like I always did. But something had changed inside me this time. I wasn't gonna cave. I wasn't going to let her run this relationship anymore. I just sat there on the couch, looking at the door, hearing her voice kinda muffled through the walls. "Tom, please, just talk to me. I'm sorry, okay? I didn't want to push you away. We can fix this, please." I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. Part of me just wanted to run out there and fix everything, to tell her I was still around, that I still cared. But another part of me, the part I'd ignored for so long, wanted to stay put and let her feel the fallout of what she'd done. After what felt like forever, the knocking stopped. The silence after that was brutal. I knew she hadn't really left, though. She couldn't leave without getting the last word, without feeling like she had some control over things. And that's when I knew this was it. I got up, went to the door, and unlocked it. Abby was standing right there, her eyes all puffy and red, and her hands were shaking a little. She looked up at me like she was hoping for something, but also totally wrecked. "Tom," she choked out, "I'm so sorry. I know I've been awful." But then she said, "Please, I don't want to lose you." I took a deep breath, just looking at her, a long moment. I wasn't mad anymore. I wasn't even hurt. I was just finished. Done with the drama, done with all the mind games, done with being the only one trying to hold us together. "Abby," I said softly, "I've been saying this for months now. We've been falling apart for a while, and every time I tried to fix things, you'd shut me out. You always made it about you, and I can't keep doing this." I couldn't keep acting like everything was okay when it wasn't. She started to say something, but I raised my hand. "No, Abby, I've heard all the excuses, all the I'm sorries, all the promises that things would change, but they never do. You always get your way. You always pull me back in when it's convenient for you, and I'm just so tired." I was done. Her face just crumpled like she was losing it. "Tom, please, I love you." "I loved you too," I said, my voice calm but final. "But love isn't enough when only one person is putting in the effort. I need someone who's gonna meet me halfway, not someone who treats me like a second choice. I'm not doing this anymore." I just watched her for a second, like I was waiting for her to argue, to try and change my mind. She just stood there, crying her eyes out, her whole body shaking. I took a step back, sighing. "Okay, Abby, I think we're done," I said, my voice shaking a little. "You can stay here, but I'm out of here." Her face went white. "What, you're leaving for real?" "I already have," I said, way colder than I meant to. "This ended a long time ago. I'm just the last one to figure it out." I turned, grabbed my already packed bag, and walked out, no looking back. The next few weeks were a total mess. I crashed at Marcus's place, trying to get my head straight. I honestly couldn't figure out why I'd stuck it out so long. Maybe I held on to hope things would change, that she'd change. But the truth hit me. I'd been fooling myself. The love was gone, long gone, buried under a ton of anger and disappointment. Abby tried to reach me a few times after I left. Texts, voicemails, the works. She even showed up at Marcus's place once, demanding a talk. But I just didn't respond, not being mean, just not letting her back in. Then after a couple of weeks, I got a text. "I'm sorry, Tom. I hope you find what you're looking for. I won't bother you again." That was it. I never saw Abby again. A few months later, I heard she'd moved on, found someone else. It didn't bother me one way or the other. I just didn't feel anything. Man, I felt so liberated. It took me a minute to really wrap my head around it all, you know. But looking back, I knew I'd done the right thing. Leaving wasn't just about her. It was all about me. It was about finally making peace with myself, about refusing to settle for a relationship where I was always giving and never getting anything back. I wasn't perfect, heck no, I'd messed up plenty. But I wasn't gonna let anyone walk all over me and make me feel worthless anymore. For the first time in ages, I could actually breathe easy.